So I saw Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Hi everyone, I'm Brandon Prosek and this is the So I Saw show, giving you my review of the film I've been dying to see for the past year, Star Wars. Before you could even think it, guess it, wonder it, this is a completely spoiler-free zone in this video. So if you haven't seen the movie, don't worry. I'm not one of those trolls on the internet just running around telling about who dies, who's related to who, all that shit. Like I'm sorry, but my wife Shelby was on a BuzzFeed article reading about Jennifer Lawrence, who isn't in any of the Star Wars films, nothing even related to Star Wars. Someone in the comments section posted a spoiler. Who does that? Who does that? Like, do you think you're cool? Do you think you're funny to get some kind of sick, psychopathic, sociopathic pleasure out of pissing someone else off on the internet who you'll never meet or see? Like, it just blows my mind. If you haven't seen one of my reviews before, what I like to do is talk about the goods, talk about the bads, and give it an overall rating. So I'm going to talk about the goods first because I simply cannot stop thinking about how much I love this movie. So why was it so good? Number one reason this movie was so good is that J.J. Abrams brought Star Wars back. Now what does that mean? Did he make another Star Wars movie? No, that's not just it. It's that he brought the essence and what made you love the original Star Wars back to the big screen. You can nitpick and pick at straws and, just find the little tiny problems with the film, and I'll admit when I get to the bad section of this film, that's what a lot of my problems are. Just tiny little things that, you know what? No movie's perfect. I have this big collection of movies. I love a lot of them, but none of them are perfect because there is no perfect movie. One of the main things I enjoyed about the film is J.J. Abrams' use of practical effects. So by keeping the CGI to a bare minimum and using practical effects, it made you actually feel like you were in this Star Wars universe. You felt like you were in Poe Dameron's ship as he was zipping around in the X-Wing. You felt like you were actually in the sand, running around from explosions with, like we see in the trailers with Rey and Finn. You feel like you're there. One of the other things I liked is all the new characters involved. I loved Rey, Finn, Poe, Kylo Ren, like all of them were handled very well. I think even though you can see easy comparisons to some of the old characters to the new ones, they're still enjoyable. They still have lots of story to come in future films. One of the other things I liked about is the fact that they didn't try to have the old cast with Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher. They didn't have all those guys overshadow these new characters. They gave them their own time to shine, as well as continuing the old character's story. One thing on a lot of people's mind was probably, how was the lightsaber fight? This is not like some of the fight sequences in the prequels where there's a lot of choreography and spinning around and all these acrobatic feats. This was just a very brutal and realistic lightsaber fight. It was intense. You knew that these characters weren't just willy-nilly spinning a lightsaber around like it was no one's business. This is a lightsaber. It could cut your head, limbs, whatever off clean. One of my last couple things I loved about this film was the humor. This was a very funny and probably the funniest Star Wars film. It wasn't cheap jokes like with Jar Jar Binks. The great thing about this humor is it didn't deter you away from what was happening. It was just sprinkled throughout in all just the right moments. Even though I love this film, there are some bads in the film, and it's not necessarily terrible things. If these would have been tightened or tweaked, changed a little bit, this film may have been perfect. One of the main things I wasn't a fan of was how, even though they're giving us a lot of love for those who are incredibly huge fans of the original films, there was a little bit repeated devices used, and it's hard to tiptoe around this without spoiling anything, but there are just some things that we've seen in A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. My only problem with that is that stuff like that, even though it's fun to pay tribute to and homage, it sometimes feels like it's just straight up repeating it, and I really hope that they don't continue that going forward in the future films, is that they come up with new ideas, new stories, new plot devices. Another thing I didn't like is I loved Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. I thought it was a great character, and his intro to the film is badass, and he's just an overall fun character. But honestly, he wasn't in it enough. He's kind of in the beginning, then he disappears. Then he comes back. And that's the thing, is that's not so much a terrible thing about the film, it's just it left me wanting more. Another character that kind of got lost in the shuffle, Captain Phasma. Who's Captain Phasma, probably a lot of you are asking? She's the stormtrooper that had the shiny, badass looking armor. She's played by Gwendolyn Christie, who plays Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones. She's a great actress, she's a big, huge, tall badass, and Captain Phasma really only has a tiny little part in the film. And I guess that's sort of a similar complaint I had with Poe, which is it wasn't so much my problem with the character as it was the time that they were given. The other bad things, and it's hard with these non-spoiler reviews because I just want to come out and say what's happening. One part about a half hour, 45 minutes in, that there's a certain action sequence that I'll just say happens on Han Solo and Chewie's ship. There's a part where some sort of CGI alien is attacking them. And the CGI was not terrible, it's just the overall part felt very un-Star Wars-like. It just didn't seem like it fit. It seemed like the one part, and I'm not talking about the whole sequence, I'm just talking about the actual action sequence. Imagine that I'm telling them to cut out action so that we could have had more story for some of the characters. Overall, trying to wrap everything up, what does this all mean? I've talked about a lot of the goods, I threw in some of the bads. What does it kind of leave me with? What it leaves me with is that, guys, this is not a perfect film. I know this has been hyped for a year. Some of you have been waiting for a new Star Wars to see in theaters for 10 years. Guys, this is not a perfect film. There are flaws. But it's a perfect Star Wars film. Fun, has action, has emotion. Best of all, there's f***ing lightsabers. You probably guessed it from the moment I started talking about gushing over all the good things in the film, but I have to give this film my #1 rating, which is tremendous. I'm going to buy it the day it comes out on DVD. If you want to go ahead and subscribe, hit this big red button below. You can catch my other movie reviews I'm going to try to keep doing. One big thing we're doing at Entertainment Buffet is a little thing called Entertainment Buffet Live. Now what is that? For any of you that are watching this that are in the Chicago area, January 12th at the Comedy Bar in River North, downtown Chicago, we are producing our first ever live comedy show. It's going to have live sketches, it's going to have stand-up, it's going to have improv, it's going to have a little bit of everything. Please try to come out. Tickets are only $7. If this show gets enough people there and to come out and see it and you enjoy it, we may be able to do Entertainment Buffet Live once a month at the Comedy Bar. So come support us. I'm going to leave a link in the info section below. You can click there to get your tickets now, or you can take a look at the Facebook event for more information if you're curious about it. Alright, I think I plugged everything, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go watch probably another Star Wars film, because Star Wars, guys. There was a new Star Wars. Star Wars. And now you saw the So I Saw show.